Alright, welcome to part 2 of the floor assembly portion of the double track bridge build series. What I decided to do here was I'm going to go ahead and paint the floor assembly, kind of the section before the ties and rail go on. I'm going to paint it. I was kind of deciding what to paint it. I think I'm going to go with Viejo German Panzer Gray, because it looks almost kind of like a grimy black. I thought it looked pretty good. Don't think it's super critical, but if I don't like it, I can always go over with another coat. So I'm going to airbrush that on. Probably do it tomorrow when I can open the windows and whatnot. I did go ahead and weather. That'll be hard to see, but I did paint the Code 83 rail and the Code 70 rail. And what I decided to do for the Code 70, since the layout was built with all Code 83 flex track and rail when I built all the fast track switches, it was all Code 83. So I got a lot of Code 83 rail. Didn't have any Code 70, and they recommend you need 4 pieces of Code 70 for the guardrails. And it does look a lot better, I think, than 83. So what I decided to do, as crazy as it may seem, because in order to buy just 4 pieces of Code 70, I couldn't find it on eBay. You could buy a nice 99-foot or a 66-foot pack. I don't need 66 feet of it. I need 4 pieces of it. So what I did was I bought a pack of 6 Microengineering Code 70 Flex Track. That way, I figured, what I did was I took 2 of them out of the ties and got the rail out of it. So that's where I got 4 pieces of rail. So now I have 4 pieces of Code 70 Flex Track. So if I ever need any more track, if I have to add industrial siding or want to do something, at least I have some. If I ever wanted to build, for whatever reason, a Code 70 turnout and the fast tracks, jigs and whatnot, I could just take some more rail out of this and do that. So might be a little bit crazy, but I decided to do it that way. So I got the 4 pieces of Code 70 painted for the guardrails, and the 4 pieces of Code 83 for the main track. The bottom section I masked it on top of the stringers here, because that's where the tie sections will actually glue. And I didn't feel like coming back having to scrape it. And I have the tie sections painted. Painted them in some warm water. Cleaned them. Washed them up in some. Painted them. Washed them up in some warm water with some dish soap, and I'm gonna let them dry here overnight. And then tomorrow I'll get the airbrush out and go ahead and get things painted up. Not exactly sure for the tie sections. I might start with a German green brown primer for the ties. I'm not sure yet exactly what I'm going to use, but we'll get the base painted, the tie sections painted, the rails are painted. Then we'll go through, put the rails onto the tie sections, get that assembly done, and then it comes in and gets glued to the floor assembly. So more to follow after we get things painted up and ready for assembly. Alrighty, so last night went ahead, broke out the airbrush, and decided to paint up the tie sections so they're all kind of painted up and they look okay. I was debating whether to go with a darker, a more black creosote type color, or a brownish weathered brown color. I've seen bridge pictures with both, so I decided to go with. I kind of like the look of the more weathered brown color, so that's what I did. A couple different shades on it, and I'm sure I'll go back and touch it up when I get everything, all the rails on it and everything. And here's the main section. I did paint that with the Viejo Panzer Gray, which I think looks pretty good. It's kind of a faded, almost like a grimy black. So I like the way that looked. So I did mask the top, because this is where the tie sections will glue, so I didn't feel like scraping paint, so I just threw some of the Tamiya masking tape on that. That's ready to go. I have the Code 70, Code 83 rail painted up. So now it's just a matter of getting the straight edge out and lining these bad boys up, putting the rail in, and doing all the little nitnoid work to get the rail the spikes mashed over. Okay, got to get into it. Nothing ever got done by complaining, so I'm gonna give it a shot tonight and see how that works out. We'll do some video when I get it going, unless I'm in the insane asylum. Ooh, that was no fun. There's the first one. I guess it's okay. I know it didn't seem like the nail set that he recommended was working. I don't know, not the way I thought it would, but I guess it's okay. It held together. It does seem like it's all in there and seems to be all engaged. I checked it. I'll show you the setup here in a moment. But it's alright. I notice it's not perfectly aligned in here. Some of them aren't perfectly symmetric all the way through. But again, I don't think when you get the bridge built, the top truss on, everything, you know, painted, weathered, and I don't think you're really going to notice that. I don't notice it now, but alright, so that's the first one. And then we'll go over it, just take a quick look at how I'm doing the setup for this. Alright, so what I did, put a straight edge out here on the edge of the workbench, clamped it in, brought the tie pieces in against it, use these other weights on the other side just to kind of keep it pushed, and then this bigger weight as I slide this along as I'm doing the spiking. I guess you call it spiking or smashing or whatever it is, just to keep some pressure, because you kind of, when you're going this way, you kind of push it, so I wanted to keep this to keep the whole thing from moving. And then you just take the nail set, and this is the one that I'm using. It's 2/32 16th or 1.6 millimeter, and that's exactly what he says in the instructions. If it's legible there, a Stanley finishing punch, 5/64. Well, I don't know where he got that. That's not the same. I don't think it's 1.6 millimeter, but I went with a 1.6 millimeter. I found it there, so I have to assume that's right. It just seems a little bit too big, but anyway, it's the first time I've done it, so I don't know. I'm sure if I built many bridges like this, I'd understand. And then I use my Fast Tracks weights. I'll be working, for example, I got the first couple ones started here. I don't think it'll be real visible with the camcorder, but I got several of the first ones here in the center smashed. You just kind of take that and let me just zoom out here. Just kind of take it and come in and just go, you know, it's really tedious. Nitnoid is what I would call it. But so I got the one outer Code 83 in, then came in and did the two Code 70s. Then for the other Code 83, when I was doing it, I used some of the rail gauges just to make sure I stayed in gauge. So I kind of slid them along, you know, because again, because you're in there and you're kind of pushing it, moving the rail. So I wanted to make sure it stayed in gauge as I was getting, especially I'm not too worried about the two guardrails, whatever. But with the main line ones here, the Code 83s, I want them to be in gauge, perfectly in gauge. So. Alright, so that's it. So right now it's what, 8:40. I gotta stop. It's just enough for one night. I know that's kind of tedious stuff. I found that if I try to push myself, I get frustrated and might go too fast or overlook things and make a mess or make a mistake or something like that. So I'm gonna stop now and then hit it again tomorrow. Try to get the other one done. So that's how we're doing it. And I guess that's the right tool according to the instructions, and guess I'm doing it right. There's really not a whole lot else you can do. You just kind of take it in there and twist it, and you mash that little. I'll try to zoom in. Again, I don't know how well it'll show up at maximum zoom. So you can see the ones that I did here. Doesn't look real pretty. Then these are the ones that I got to get to. And then I can do this with one hand. I'm not going to actually do it, but you just got to come in there, and that little cup fits over it, and you just kind of mash it in. And then same thing on this side, and go all the way down and do all of them. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Alright, so anyway, I'll get that done. Definitely get it done tomorrow. I'm going to get this behind me because this is not fun. And then have to get into starting to build the truss assembly. And once I get these two done, probably come back in and do some more painting and weathering to get them fixed up, glued down to the floor assembly. See how that might look. Maybe even, like I said, get it installed, or at least put in temporarily, so we can run trains over it and make sure it doesn't bow like it was before these got in. So we'll see. All right, so enough rambling. You can tell I'm getting tired already. So gonna pause for tonight, and we'll be back after we get the second one complete. Okay, fresh day, and I got the other set done. And yeah, it was still nitnoid, but got through it. So now, what I'm probably gonna do. These aren't glued on yet or anything. I'm probably going to take both of them and give another quick shot with the airbrush, because some of the paint got a little nicked up as you were sitting there mashing the ties over, which is fine. And then I'll maybe do a little bit of a touch up on the tie plates, and then get ready to glue them on to the floor assembly. And what I have here, what I was doing was I was looking at the instructions, and it says to draw a pencil line on each crossbar 1 7/8 in. So basically from here in 1 7/8, and then kind of give you a guide to align the edge of the support tie here. Well, I was looking at that and thinking, I was like, well, but wait a minute. What does that give me in terms of track spacing? Because on the layout it's 2 inches, and if you go by 1 7/8 that are in the instructions, it's not quite that. Now, it might not be a huge deal. It's just something to consider if you're building the kit, and if you happen to have track already laid up to very close to the bridge, and obviously if you're at 2 inches and this is actually 1 7/8, that might be an issue for you. I got plenty of track, plenty of room. It's all temporary, so I don't think it'd be a huge deal. But what I did was I went back into my Fast Tracks box down there on the floor, and I pulled out some of their quick sticks, which I use as guides, and I have a lot of 2-inch spacers already made up, and just kind of set them on there. So I'm thinking of perhaps going and modifying things a little bit per the instructions, and actually going with a 2-inch spacing so it lines up perfectly. I don't think that would be an issue. I don't know if they did that on purpose. Doesn't say anything at all in here about the track spacing, but looking at it, it's probably gonna be hard to see in the video, but it looks like there's a room, because basically what I'll be doing is moving this out a 1/16 on each side. I think it'd be fine. I think it would clear up here and everything like that. So still thinking about it, but that is what the instructions say, and I don't know what track spacing was assumed with that. But just something to be aware of, because your track spacing might be different. You might have, 2 1/8, 2 1/4, just something like that. Now, if you got too wide, 2 1/2 or so, and these are spread out, you might start to get too wide and interfere. Your rolling stock might interfere with the bridge. The other, I'm drawing a blank here, beams that run up to hold the truss assembly up. So something to consider. So I'm probably gonna, like I say, do a little bit of work on these. They're not glued on here, and they seem to hold up pretty well. I'm a little cautious of them just because of the way the things are mashed over. It doesn't seem like a real secure thing, but they seem to be fine. So get them done and then get it glued on. If I get it airbrush up tonight, might let it sit overnight and then do a final check and then glue them on tomorrow, let it set, and then see about perhaps getting this, because that will complete the floor assembly, getting it out on the layout. Getting it installed will maybe a little bit of work. I might actually use some PCB board ties up close in here to solder it to help, some support for the rails and whatnot. So we'll see. But did get through it, and now it's just a matter of determining exactly how I want to get them spaced and move forward. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up the airbrush and get these things finished up. Alright, here we go. Got it painted up. I think it turned out pretty nice. I decided to go ahead. It's got to dry now. I'm going to come back and do some touch up here and there. And I might actually come in and hit each of the heads of the lag bolts holding this down with a little bit of maybe a black color or a graphite color. Just make it look, because it's, obviously that would, or maybe a brighter rust in some areas. what I did was I started with, I just grabbed some paint out of the rack, would look good. I used overall, that's Dark Tracks, Ammo of MIG, kind of give it an overall cover, and started to cover the rails up, because I wanted to cover the guardrails up. Came back with, again, with some Rust Tracks, kind of inside here along the tie plates on the inside, and then a final Old Rust came by and kind of finished up any spots that were missing on the guardrails. Came back, cleaned off the mainline tracks with a cleaner. Still need some more touch up, like I said, but overall I think it looks pretty good. You know, I've seen a lot of different variety in the colors that the ties are. Some darker, you know, more creosote-y. Some kind of more faded brown like this. So, I'm happy with it. So, overall, that's where we are. That's kind of the setup there with a freight car on it, just to see what it looks like. They're not glued in yet. So, going to stop now, let it dry overnight, do some touch-up, and hopefully tomorrow get them actually glued on to the floor assembly. Then that will pretty much be complete. And if I decide to, be ready for installation on the layout. And now we move on to the truss assembly. So that's the, I'd say 99%, except for a little bit of touch up on paint and some more cleaning on the main rails, but it's 99% complete of the floor assembly. Okay. Getting ready here to glue the tie rail assemblies onto the floor. And I was sitting down just about to do it, and I thought, well, no, wait a minute. I got to think about this, because what I was going to use, obviously, is the good old liquid plastic cement. But given the size of this thing, I thought if I came in here and just put, you know, some glue of this stuff, then got this and brought it up, you know, by the time I actually get it on there, that stuff evaporates real fast. So I'm afraid it might be dry. It's like, well, wait a minute, that could be a problem. So what I did was I tried some Walther's goo, because this gives me a little bit more time. And what I'm going to do is not use it for the main bond, but maybe just come in and put a couple spots, you know, dab, 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 dab. Then come back with some liquid glue, just in a couple, maybe here at the end, two in the middle, one at the end. Then quickly get the ties up and on, and then position them, and I know how I'm going to measure them to get them to the correct spacing and everything. And then get that on, maybe get a little weight, and let it set. And then do the same thing for the other set of ties. Then when they're both kind of set for maybe, I don't know, 15-20 minutes or so, turn this over, and then come back with some more of the bonding from the underside to secure more between the stringer and the bottom side. Sparingly, just with a little brush, not the brush in the bottle, a little another brush. So that's what I'm going to try, and hopefully that works out okay. So let's get into it. Okay, it seemed to work all right. Got everything in there. Got the one track in, set, positioned, because I knew how I wanted to measure from outside of here to the support tie going across. So I got that rail set. Put some weights on it, let it set for a minute or two. Same thing, a couple little dabs of goo, a couple spots of the liquid plastic cement, and then set that on. I'm just going to let it sit here for maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes or so, just to kind of tack up, although it was actually tacking up pretty good. Flip it over, put a little bit of glue between the stringers and the rest of the plastic ties, and then let that set probably overnight, to be honest. Let it just sit there and get nice and secured up, and then we take it out to the layout and see how it looks. Okay, there it is, turned over. Seem to have used the glue properly. I don't have like a gooey mess on the ties or anything. Doesn't look like anything ran through. So I got some weight on that. So I'm just going to let it sit now. I'm probably just going to let it sit till tomorrow. Get at it tomorrow morning. That way, let that glue all set up. It's pretty important that this be pretty sturdy. I'm kind of curious once this is done, and if if I go on a layout tomorrow and just see if it bows like it did in some of the initial videos before I had the ties on. I did notice the ties seem to make it a lot sturdier, so I don't think it will. So, alright, so we'll do that, and I have started to cut up the different beam assemblies, column assemblies and whatnot need to be made and everything, so that's probably what we'll get into next. Now that the floor is really about 95% done. I don't want to get it glued, look flipped over, probably fix up a little bit of paint here and there that might have come off as I was handling it. And then we'll see what it looks like all completed. Alright, well that's the floor is glued up. One quick correction I do need to make. At least I did see this ad for the bridge. And I actually kind of cut it out to have it down with me here. And in it they do indeed say, right here on the ad, 2-inch center to center tie. So it certainly is set up, which it looked like it was, for 2-inch center to center on the rails. So it didn't mention it in the instructions, but I just want to, you know, I was wrong. I was kind of making a comment that they didn't have it anywhere, but they do, at least on this advertisement that was out. I think it's out of one of the Model Railroader magazine Great Model Railroads for 2015. I actually like the ad. It's got a good picture of the bridge, so I'm going to keep this around as reference as well. So I want to correct myself that it does say, indeed, it is set up for 2-inch centers on the tracks. Alright, floor assembly is dried from overnight, and what I decided to do is just kind of weather it up a little bit. I got all excited. I was going to get all kinds of my different rust effects and dirt and grime and earth, and then I realized, well, wait a minute. The way that track section sits, it's going to be hidden a lot by the outer beam. So this will need to be some good weathering, but back in there it's not going to be quite as visible. So, and then knowing that, I said, well, wait a minute, now I can play around a little bit. So I tried some different stuff and just some different powders and some of the different effects just to kind of play around with it, since I know a lot of it's going to be covered up. So just playing around with that a little bit, see what things look like there. So let me get out of this little fixture here and kind of see what it looks like overall. Alright, here we got the floor assembly. Pretty much done, ready to be installed or stored until later. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but seems pretty sturdy now. Probably take out a layout and just try it and see what it looks like. And again, I came back and did a little bit of touch up to some of the painting and weathering, and then I decided to weather the front side of it just for the fun of it, even though it won't be seen. I didn't do the back side. Call me lazy, but I think it came up relatively well. Now it's on to the next part of the build here. Will be the truss assembly, getting that started up. Got some of the various beams cut out and ready to go, so I'll take it out and just pop some layout real quick and see what it looks like. Alright, there it sits. I can see I'm going to need to do some shimming, so I'm probably not going to put it in for now, because right now, unfortunately, on this side it's kind of resting on the rails, so I'm going to have to get underneath there. I don't know how it's going to show up. Give it a little bit of a shim, and I'm hoping that it doesn't bow too much. If not, we'll be going back and adding an abutment here in the center, but we shall see. So that's that. Then obviously you have to work the track in here at this end and working it at this end, and I'm not quite ready for that. So like I said, I'm not gonna install this just yet. I'll keep it over on the workbench, and you can see I'm working on leveling off the area for the pond. So that's what all that white stuff is down there. So that's it. So I guess I can call the floor complete for now. So I'm not going to install it just yet. Maybe in a little bit. There's other things I want to get working on. I could get the truss assembly going and everything like that. So that is that. Alright, so floor done. Onward and upward to the truss assembly. That'll follow in the oncoming segments here of our build sequence. So stay tuned for more.